back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Now, when you've got multiple top 5 teams losing, and when you have profiles and resumes that do not necessarily line up with records, loss counts, and head-to-head results, it's going to be messy when they have to come together and figure out how to rank the top 25. So, any guesses? Where do you think Ole Miss is going to land, Tom Fornelli?
Where were they at? 16th?
Yep.
Oh, we're doing this is AP, not the playoff. I should make sure I'm looking at the right one. But they were at 16th.
Well, as we talked about on Tuesday night, they're pretty close in the top 17.
I would think that, especially depending on what happens with BYU, with Miami losing. I mean, I don't know if they're not going to pass Miami. But I do think they will jump up to 11.
I've got them at 10. I've got Miami falling to 12. I think evaluating Miami as a one-loss team has them looking closer to Boise and SMU than it does to
Yes. Go ahead.
Than it does to even 2-loss teams that are going to be up in that range, just because there is not, I mean, Louisville's the win that you're bringing to the table. You know, as long as you've got a 0 in the loss column, you are empowered by that 0. But as soon as you get a loss, I think the conversation becomes, now show me your win. And Miami's win is Louisville. And that's where Ole Miss, especially coming out of the Georgia victory, is going to have a little bit of an edge. That's where Georgia gets really hairy too, because they've got a loss to Alabama, but a win against Texas. So it's kind of like, not sure. It's difficult for any voter. I mean, Tom, we're going to have to fill out our CBS Sports 134 ballots tomorrow. And that whole section of the rankings, probably between, like, I don't know, 6 and 18. It's a lot of conflicts of interest, I guess. It'd be a way to put it.
Do you have them ahead of Notre, or do you think? See, I still think Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. I know that Notre Dame has the Texas A&M win, so you give them that point. They both played Louisville, both had pretty similar games against Louisville. But when you compare losses, Miami's losses to Georgia Tech on the road, Notre Dame's is to Northern Illinois at home.
Notre Dame has 4 straight double-digit wins. They have been doing the opposite of skating by.
Fair.
That was kind of what I took note of when
they did beat the crap out of the Georgia Tech team that Florida or Miami lost to.
Yeah.
So that's fair.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, is that it's 5 straight games where the Fighting Irish have scored 30 points or more, and 4 straight double-digit wins for a team that's looking increasingly ready to compete against the best teams in the country.
Where are we going to put Arizona State?
I think your boy John Summerall gets the nod ahead of Arizona State.
Okay.
Tulane they got votes last week. And I think they were like 27th or 28th in the balloting in terms of voting points. Beating Temple alone is not going to get you there, but 52-6, that gets you to 8-2 overall, 6-0 in conference play. You know, there's still some work left to be done to have the other conversations about Tulane, because their next 2 opponents are Navy and Memphis. Yeah. So those are tough games, but I've got Iowa State, Pitt, and Vanderbilt falling out. I've got Tulane, South Carolina, and Missouri getting in, because remember, Missouri was not ranked in the AP poll last week.
But after that impressive win over Oklahoma, you probably need to.
They were 26th last week. And and one of the things I talked about in the lead is the cat and mouse between the selection committee and the AP voters. Like, sometimes they inspire each other, sometimes they chase each other. And I think that Missouri combined with the Sooners win would be another example of that.
Yes.
LSU. How far do they fall?
How far should they fall, or how far will?
Will.
I would get them out.
I don't know. Maybe like all the way to like 17.
I've got them at 19, basically landing above Washington State. That a team that beat Ole Miss.
No, it's entirely fair.
A team that beat Ole Miss should not be behind Washington State.
That's they've lost 3 times.
That was their first blowout loss.
Right.
You guys are too forgiving.
They also beat South
They've
Carolina.
also lost
on the
2
road.
straight, by the way.
Yeah.
So 2-time losers.
That'll be a team to watch. Like, do they quit?
Ooh.
Because they're done with the playoff now. I'm pretty sure.
I've got Georgia falling from 2 to 11.
But they
I
had
do
the
want-
Texas win.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, I wonder if that Texas win and then just the fact that it's Georgia will keep them in the top 10.
Potentially, especially
Indiana did struggle with Michigan for about 20 minutes. So maybe we should keep Georgia ahead of Indiana.
I've got Penn State staying ahead of Indiana. I can see Indiana jumping Tennessee just because, like, if you were on the low end of Indiana, and a lot of voters were, at least just beating Michigan should have answered something.
I don't think it'll move the needle that much. I think people are going to look at Michigan and be like, yeah, they suck this year.
So they'll just sort of hang tight and just move it up in the pecking order, about the same spot.
They might jump Tennessee. You might be right, but I would also not be surprised at all if Indiana sticks at 8.
The voting points between Penn State, Indiana, and it was Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, and the voting points between them was 35, which I don't know if you've ever looked at these, but these are like 1,450 something versus like 1,420 something. So the opportunity to flip that is really just maybe like 5-6 ballots, making a spot or two adjustment. I tend to think that you might have been sitting around waiting for Indiana to prove something. They didn't beat Michigan in a thunderous manner, but I think they could jump Tennessee. We'll
That's
see.
it.
BYU might be back in the top 10 again.
Yeah.
Or on their way to it.
Are they about to score again?
Yeah,
BYU is obviously a huge part of the math in terms of whether teams are in or out of the top 10. If BYU were to lose, guess what, Georgia? You're not leaving the top 10. If BYU wins, maybe you are stuck at number 11. Let's see. Got Colorado making a little bit of a jump. Not major given the overall shakeups that are happening all around them, but I could see Colorado, which was 21 last week, jumping ahead of Washington State just because you went on the road. You beat Texas Tech by 2 touchdowns. You can see that giving a little bit of positive momentum.
Did you say how far you think Iowa State falls?
Got them out.
Got them out.
Yep.
Chip, this Big 12 bias.
Well, 17 is danger zone.
And their win over Iowa now looks worse.
Mm-hmm.
Or less impressive.
Basically, anything else, when we get to this deep in the season, if you are outside of the top 15 and lose to an unranked opponent, then it needs to be an absence of options that will keep you from falling out. And I think that there's enough options to get them in.
Do you think South Carolina can get in?
Yes. 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they swap with Vandy pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
Can South Carolina make the playoff?
No.
I think they can.
I hate the college football playoff.
I don't care. You know what? How about this, bud? I hope they do.
You guys are mean.
Okay, look. So getting blown out by Ole Miss at home now looks a lot more excusable.
But you got blown out.
Sure. There's a real scenario in which Big 12 and ACC only get 1 each.
Yep.
Big 10's not getting 5.
Big 10 might not get 4.
Okay, well, then they really can.
But if you're a 3-loss team, you better not have a blowout loss on your resume. They better have all been close losses. At least that I can buy into the theory that you've got a chance. But if you got blowed the hell out by somebody, you don't have a chance. You don't need to be in there.
They would have to run the table, but you beat Vandy, you beat Missouri, which is now going to look better because Missouri won the ball game.
They are a juggernaut.
And Clemson.
And Wofford. Don't forget Wofford. Come on.
2 close losses to Alabama and LSU, and you got blown out by Ole Miss.
That loss to LSU could look horrific by the end of the season, though.
I'm never going to get these 45 seconds back, because I'll tell you what Clemson's going to do in that last game is they're going to pour it out, because there's going to be nothing left to play for but to beat South Carolina, and that does matter to that program. So putting in your word, hey, let me blow Tom and Chip's minds with this South Carolina can still make the playoff theory.
Oh, he's trying to get me mad. I know what he's doing.
No. Here's how I refuse that. I refuse that because I refuse to believe that in the final game of the regular season, when everything else is off the table, that Clemson's going to go lay down in Death Valley on rivalry weekend. Hell no.